to record. Yeah, just whenever you're ready, Christina, take us off.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Pro Physique Code. This is Coach Christina, and I am joined today by Coach Jess and Coach Phil. How are you guys doing?
Good. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. I'm excited about today's topic, but I feel like it's one where we might ruffle some feathers or say some things that maybe people don't want to hear with stuff. But we had kind of worked this one out with the topic of being kind of falling in love with the annoying parts of living the fit lifestyle. Or when I forget how I had put it originally when we were talking about it, but it was like, oh, get off on the effort. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's what
I
you
figured
said.
that probably wasn't the best one to be like the tagline for the title. But I was having a day where I was kind of frustrated with Instagram messages that I was getting in response to stories and things like that, where I get a lot of the, gosh, I just wish I could do that. I wish I had the time. I wish I had the know-how. I wish I had whatever it is, right?
I'm so busy.
Right. Yeah. It's always like, oh, well, I would do that, but when it comes to things, and I get it, to a certain extent, but it's definitely one of those where that day, at least, I was getting a little prickly because I had people being like, well, I wish I, had the time to do the things that you're doing and stuff. And I wanted to be like, oh my God, I'm literally baking bread while holding one child and the other one's wrapped around my leg. And I have to go pick up the other two and get my workout in and answer my clients and do this and do that. And blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all of these things. And I don't have this magical extra amount of time in my day to get things done. It's that I prioritize the things that in my mind are important to get done throughout that day, and then take the time to kind of mentally time block my day to say, okay, well, this is the only way it can happen, and then knock things out. Right. And so it kind of grew into this whole idea of be a better example, because with 4 kids and 2 of them being in activities, I'm surrounded by kids and parents a lot, and child athletes who are in big things with this all-star cheer. And I'll hear a lot of, my daughter should do more of this if she wants to be more flexible. Well, she should do this if she wants to be more athletic. She should eat this way or whatever. And I'll sit and listen to these things and chew the shit out of the inside of my cheeks so that I don't say anything out loud.
Because people don't understand, you've worked out your own system and set of habits that all of this stuff is good for. And then it's you're hearing, push on, kids. And it's well, hold on a second. Is your kid seeing you do any of this shit?
Well, that's exactly it.
Yep.
Who is going to the grocery store? Who is setting up their dates? Who are they watching? And things like that. And we can't sit and look at our family members and be like, oh, well, they should be doing these things if you're not going to do it yourself. So I feel like that's when, and I feel like I've talked about this on other podcasts when it comes to family members who want to butt in about someone's lifestyle choices or decision to prep or something, where it's if you don't understand, you should probably zip your lip and mind your beeswax. And it's one of these things where I'm if you're not going to model those behaviors for your child, then don't be surprised that those aren't the ones that they're picking up. If your response is to be well, we could be that person, but instead I'm going to sit on my phone and scroll through people's lives and say, I wish I could be that person, and not get up and do something about it. You need to look inward and just pick one thing. You don't have to be the person who bakes bread or who does these different things or whatever. But if there's something where every time you see that person doing it, it makes you think, oh, I wish I lived that life. I wish I went for that walk every day, or I wish I drank more water or whatever. Sometimes you just have to lean into the fact that maybe you don't like water, but you like the way you feel after you drink it. So you do it.
Yeah. Or maybe you don't even like how you're feeling, but you know that it's actually good for you.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
No, totally. That's so look, if you're wanting to have above average results, right? Like if you just want to get by on being average, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what makes you happy, but whenever you start going, all right, well, I want this aspect of my life to be better, or I want that aspect, or I want to lose some body fat or put on some muscle, or I want to get healthy, or I want to get off this medication. Well, you have to first start by just evaluating your own habits. And all right, what I'm doing right now, is it in line with my goals? Okay. If I'm, getting fast food every single day for breakfast and lunch, and my goal is, I want to lose some body fat. Look, I'm not the type of person that I'm just going to go, oh, well, because I've got kids, I'm just going to automatically always go with the easier option. No, I've still got my goals. I'm not going to say, well, I can't achieve my goals because of my kids. Like I'd be a complete piece of shit if I said that. So instead, taking the approach of, look, they're watching me and they're seeing me either aim for nothing and hit it every time whenever I don't have any goals, or I'm not trying to better myself, or I'm not trying to, learn something or develop a new habit. They're watching me whenever I go, all right, my goal is I'm going to push press 195 pounds for 10 reps today. That is my goal. And my kids are seeing me do that. That's an above average thing to be doing. That's not something that most people are doing. Most people are not taking the time to prep out their breakfast. Most people are not taking the time to do all of this. So if you're fine with average and you want to stay where you're at, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you've got goals and you're trying to improve other areas, then start by analyzing your habits and go, is this in line with that goal? If not, then what do I need to change? What would be the most optimal thing to be lined up with that goal in terms of my habits? And go, how applicable is that? How practical is it? Yes, having kids can make things a little bit more challenging time-wise. Like I remember being 23 and no kids. It was just me and my beagle and a 1,100 square foot townhouse that took all of an hour for me to bro clean real quick. Um, I had all the time in the world to go to the gym and take an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes to lift. And then I had time to do cardio and come home, and I could cook fresh every single day. Didn't matter. But you start to develop these habits as your life gets busier. And I know like that's something that I'm fortunate to have had, but I still have to keep these habits and I have to adapt them as life goes and gets busier. Whether you've got kids or not, life will start getting busier. It doesn't matter. Like that's just part of it. That's part of the human experience. So don't look at someone else. You see Christina over there slaying it with 4 kids and working out and baking some of the most amazing cookies I ever saw on Instagram the other day.
And cupcakes.
When I see you guys soon, I'm gonna go on a baking extravaganza. So
Oh my God, can you
nobody
bring
better be
some?
sticking to macros because I'm gonna supply cupcakes, cookies, because it's like my love language. So.
Bring some to Denver, please and thanks.
Oh yeah. Jess, what about you? Have you had talk to clients about these kinds of things?
Yeah, I think this is like a really multifaceted kind of situation because there's lots of things that I want to touch on, but I think one of the things, you two are both parents, right? You have kids, you have families, and obviously, you've grown to adapt, right? So exactly like Phil, like you said, or Christina, like you had a new child. Okay. So we're having now 4 instead of 3. And how do we do these things? And honestly, watching your stories, Christina, and you're carrying Claire and your shoulder pressing on the other arm. I'm like, dude, I'm blown away because I don't have kids. And so I'm sure a lot of people who are also listening to this have kids, but some also do not. So like myself, but that doesn't mean that you also still can't set an example for your friends and family as well as yourself, right? I think one of the things that I always strive to do as a coach is I want to walk the walk. I want to set that example. And so when I was coaching synchronized swimming, I would always have snacks like, vegetables, carbs, fruit, like just like kind of well-rounded meals, etc. And I would talk to my athletes about fueling your body and how to do that properly. And then I would demonstrate that myself. And what blew my mind was that there were multiple coaches in the space that did not do the same for themselves. And it drove me wild because they would make comments amongst themselves about like being uncomfortable in their physical bodies and being overweight and eating badly and having bad choices. And they would say, they would use all of this negative language towards food and exercise and hating on it, and coach high performance athletes that were going to the Olympics. And I was like, what is even happening here? And so, transitioning into like, personal training and coaching my athletes and now my current clients, it's like, I want to walk the walk. So how can I set an example for my clients or for people who are watching me? And it's not even just my clients, but it's like my friends and my family. And, I've noticed, sorry, go ahead.
It's that ripple effect because, all right,
absolutely,
you're coaching, like you're walking the walk, and then you're giving these ideas and strategies to somebody that you're working with that now they're applying it, and you don't know who's the person that they've struggled with their relationship with food and with their weight their entire life, that now they work with that person and they see, wow, Jane is doing an amazing job and she's balancing everything and she's looking great. Next thing you know, they're now picking up on some of those habits too. It's the butterfly effect essentially of positivity, and I absolutely love that because, hey, you're working a full roster load, you're still a very busy person, you've got all these things going on, and people really can underestimate, whenever they're not familiar with what it takes to compete. Like, you actively compete, you actively go into contest preps, and that is a ton of time dedication that you have to just prioritize. Is it worth, doing these things for my goals, whether, competing on a stage or losing body fat to look good for an event coming up or just getting healthier? You have to start to prioritize, look, this is time that I've got to manage, that ultimately there's someone who's busier than me out there doing way more.
Yeah. Well, and it's about, sorry, I was going to say, like, it's not like I mean, we like these kind of things because we're kind of crazy, but we've grown to enjoy and embrace these things. And realizing that a lot of these things are not easy and they don't come easy, but we take it as an opportunity to grow instead of, I wish, no, or like, oh, well, I wasn't sitting in front of my athletes, eating, let's say, like hummus and veggies and going, I wish I could have donuts every day or whatever, like, well, I don't think that I would like donuts every day because that would probably make me feel like shit. But like it's about embracing these choices that we make for our goals. And I want to, like, it's a choice, and kind of like embracing that suck. And that's what you were talking about, Christina, is like, I'm sure that you really don't super enjoy having your barnacle baby, like you talk about, and trying to cook and clean and manage all the other kids, and also being a wife and trying to get, training in yourself and all of these things. Like, it's that, yeah, getting off on the effort.
Yeah. And so the funny part with it too, because I've been trying to share more stuff recently, because vast majority of the people I work with are moms, right?
Yep.
And like, they're usually moms of small children too, which is like, by far, like, I love it. Like, it's very much like the niche that I want to be a part of with stuff. But I get a lot of the like, oh, well, I get too overwhelmed, or I can't do that, I don't know how to figure it out and stuff, and they think that I don't. I am like the most anxious person I know, like so anxious. I finally, after like had tried pursuing therapy and stuff like that, right before I got pregnant with Claire. And was talking to people, like, I thought it was like just an issue of anxiety with stuff. They nailed it down to ADHD, which made perfect sense. They were like, you're anxious because you can't finish anything, because you can't focus on anything. And like, it was like this big circle of stuff. So that was like a big light bulb moment for me. And it was actually really helpful finding that out and pursuing an understanding of that, because I mean, because of the kind of people we are, right? I dove down like a research hole to learn more about just how like my brain works and how to make it work better, or support it, I guess, better
I like that.
with stuff. And it was actually my son's teacher who, because he has ADHD, where he talked about it as like, instead of looking at it as something that holds you back or that makes life more difficult, harness it as your superpower.
Yeah.
And so for ADHD, a big part of it is that like when we find something we love, we get hyper focused on it, and it's like our thing, right? Luckily for me, I have like a hyper focus on like mom life, right? And a lot of it is a fear of not doing everything I'm supposed to do, or not being enough, and like things like that. So I would like a lot of the things I do, which in the end I do enjoy, and now they've become like routines and I love it. And I love providing the things I do for my family and like all of that. A lot of it started from a place of, I have to do this. And then it grew into something like beautiful instead, like with it, so
Like
from
you
saying,
get to.
right. So instead of it being like, oh, well, I have to cook dinner because I can't give the kids McDonald's 7 nights a week, then it became exploring like cooking recipes that are more fun and like learning more about it. And then my husband got involved. And so, I mean, now he cooks dinner like half the time, but like both of us have like really dove into different like genres of cooking. And like we have way more cooking gadgets and things like that, which gave me time to dive into baking and like all of those different things. And like all of this to say that like if you're just sitting and watching somebody and you're seeing them be an example of something where you're like, oh, well, I just wish it was as easy for me as it is for her, it might not be at all. And it might just be like there's secretly a whole lot going on underneath that surface. But we all know like social media is a highlight reel, right?
Yep.
And so every time someone says to me, like, I don't know how you do it, like I've been responding back with like weaponized ADHD. Like that's what it is. Where like,
Love it.
I have to pour myself into something. And when I do get started on a project, I get very hyper focused with it. And that feeds into things like contest preps for me, with why I can like set my eyes on that and then be like laser focused with things. And like I've had to learn how to pull that back and things too, to balance my day to hit all of the boxes and make sure like the train keeps moving forward with all of the things. And I think that's where like a lot of clients will get caught up with stuff, where if things aren't perfect, then it's like, I shouldn't, like, I'm not cut out for this. I can't be the person who macro tracks because I just can't hit my numbers perfectly every day.
And that's something else, is like people try to, and it's with the absolute purest of heart and best intention that, we look at somebody that we go, okay, I want to be more like this person. Like, let's take the mom with young kids that's looking at Christina and going, oh, I want to be able to work out and still take my kids to cheer practice, and I want to, bake, and I want to prep my own foods. Like maybe the best strategy for that person is to just start with one of those things. Hey, they see Christina's drinking her water on her Instagram stories. Well, stop and evaluate, how much water are you drinking right now? Do you drink any water? I've talked with a lot of people that, they go, oh, well, I drink 3 or 4 waters a day. Okay, well, how big's the container of water that you're drinking? Well, 12. Okay, so, we're getting like 36, 48 ounces of water. Let's see how you feel whenever we hydrate a little bit better and start noticing, okay, I'm not as hungry. My hair, my skin, my nails, all of that feels better. And like, even as a guy, I recognize like a day or two of dehydration in my skin. And I'm not sure if it's just, welcome to being in your fucking 30s, but, I even just think about that aspect of like, wow, just simply drinking more water gets me feeling better. And now, is it more effort to be tracking and mindful of your water? Yes, but how much more effort is it really? It's find the strategy that works for you. Maybe it's carrying around the big 1 gallon jug with timestamps on it. Great. If that works for you, perfect. I don't like that because I've got to go. I've got to go pick up my kids from daycare, and the gallon jug's not fitting in my cup holder. It's going to just tumble around on my Jeep, and God forbid I get into an accident with 8 pounds worth of projectile. Stainless steel tumbler fits in the cup holder. I know I've got to do 3 of these. There's 120 ounces. A gallon is 128 fluid ounces. Boom, done. I've just got to have a Coke Zero with my dinner, and I've met my fluid goal. So, start off with the smaller steps, or maybe you see, hey, Jess is out walking and she's getting 10,000 steps a day. Okay, start with where you're at and just work on improving. Now, over the course of a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you've gone from not really drinking a whole lot of water, maybe you're drinking a lot of soda, a lot of coffee, energy drinks, to you've increased your water. And now you've gone from 2 or 3,000 steps a day to you're doing like, 6 to 8,000 steps or 8 to 10,000 steps. And now start to evaluate, am I heading in that direction that I want to do? Was it more work to start walking more, to do a 5-minute walk after my dinner, to track my water? Yes, it's a little bit more work, but it's manageable. Then start pushing yourself once you've got some of that momentum towards, all right, well, what's the next achievable thing that I can start doing that it's going to be a challenge? But if it wasn't challenging, it's not going to change me. If it wasn't a challenge, everyone would be doing it, right? Like everyone would be tracking their food and eating protein and getting plenty of produce and drinking water and getting good recovery, taking their training. Like if it was easy, everyone would do it. But
I mean, thank God, or else we'd be out of a job.
oh,
Right. Yeah. So at Cora's gym, or Cora and Riker's gym, I was talking to one of the coaches one day, and she had said how, like, and this is what, like, they're having these conversations with children, right? Where kids were saying like, oh, well, my legs are tired or whatever, so I want to sit out of practice. And she had to be like, you are on an elite level team. This is what it feels like to be an athlete. Like, and you got to kind of lean into it. And I feel like that's something that is so like should be said so often, even to just adults that are starting changes, where it'll be like, I want all of these things in my life. I want to, to wear smaller pants. I want to be able to do this with my kids. I want to get off of, blood pressure medication, whatever it is. But I don't want to change anything. Like, yeah, is really what ends up being the underlying message, right? Like, I don't want to eat better. I don't like drinking water.
Oh, but I'm not willing to do that.
Right. I hate sweating.
Or I'm too, like, I can't, I'm too busy. Right. Which is goes back into, okay, well, if you're too busy, then maybe we need to like look at your priorities, or maybe do a time log like of your day, etc. But like, honestly, I think, Christina, like you said, I just want to go back to like that Instagram comment, and like Phil, you said, like, if you're always trying to look or trying to do like somebody else does, you might miss out on your own superpower and what that is, right? So like Christina, you were saying you have weaponized ADHD, and we're gonna like lock into the baking and the cooking, and you got really into that, and that's what works for you, right? But if somebody was always trying to force that upon themselves and thinks that that's how they're going to be able to manage their time, they might be missing out on their own superpower. So something that I, like share about, and I talk to my clients about, is I'm super introverted. And so many people are like, really? I'm like, yeah, no, like I love my alone time, and I'm an only child. I charge when I am more by myself, or with people who I really connect with. And so a lot of times when people maybe see me on social media, it's at like a Pro Physique event, or with friends, or with like really, really close people that we just share very like intimate kind of like likes, dislikes, etc. And that's where I feel like I really flourish. But if you were to give me a giant room full of people that I had to have small talk with, I would be like that person in the corner, like petting a dog and not talking to anybody. So, but if you always thought that that's how I was and you were trying to be like me because of what you thought that I did on social media, you would probably be just, I'm trying to think of some analogy, but like, it just wouldn't work, right? You're always trying to be like somebody else.
They're trying to be the Instagram version of you whenever it's like, look, you are your own character. Like if this is a video game, create your own character. You want to be a fucking Viking, be a Viking. You want to be
those storybooks.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that idea of like create your own video game character, because that really, like, life's gonna happen, right? And so you can choose, are you the person who sits on the couch all day and says, God, I wish my life was different? Or do you just make it different? Like
make it different.
And it doesn't have to be 100%, but go into that, Phil, because I think that's amazing.
So like, I always want people to understand that ultimately they are in charge. I'm not somebody that believes like, oh, everything's predetermined. Like, no, that is just not the case. There is only one thing in this world that we ever have to do, and that is die. You can argue taxes, but you can still choose to not pay your taxes, enjoy prison. Look, you're the one ultimately making your choices, whether that is showing up to the job that you hate every day. You do have that option to go, you know what, screw this place, screw this job. I'm going to just not show up today, or I'm going to look for a different job. One of these still gets you away from that. They both get you away from that job, but one's probably a little bit more productive of a path. It's just like with, okay, am I wanting to just sit on the couch and constantly browse through Instagram for hours on end at night and see this highlight reel of, man, this person's absolutely crushing it with their life. They're lifting weights. They're looking good. They're living La Vida Loca, right? So do you want to just watch them and experience their life through a screen in the palm of your hand? Or do you want to go, you know what? I do have 30 minutes here. Let me get up and go for a walk, or let me do some push-ups, or let me prep some food. Managing your time is a huge component to why I think that any of us are successful. Like I said earlier, there's always someone who is busier and they're doing more. I look at just this past weekend, and my wife was away visiting her family in a different state. And, I've got 2 young kids. I've got 2 dogs. One's a senior now. I live on a fairly large piece of land that, we had a storm come through on Thursday that there was a ton of branches down in my yard. And well, they're not going to cut themselves on Friday. Friday morning for me was waking up at 4, driving my wife to the airport at 4:20. And no, I'm not trying to make a secret message there. But, hey, driving my wife to the airport at the ass crack of the day, getting back home, getting the kids breakfast ready, waking the kids up, getting them fed, getting them into their uniforms for daycare, getting them out the door, making sure that everything is good, come home, and I've still got a full day of work ahead of me. Plus I want to work out. Plus I know that I've got to do a little bit of meal prep for myself for the weekend. Plus I've got all these freaking big branches down in my yard that the chainsaw isn't going to make like what's the Fantasia? I'm not going to just Fantasia.
Oh my gosh.
I just pictured it doing that. And then you said,
I love Fantasia. Oh my gosh.
Like on one hand, it's a wonderful idea. Like, oh my gosh, the chainsaw just started itself, went out in the yard. Wait a minute, if that thing gets a little bloodlust or something in the middle of the night, that's the most terrifying thought I've ever had.
That's terrifying.
Is moving itself. But I literally said the first thing I did whenever I got back from dropping my kids off on daycare on Friday was, all right, I'm going to make a list of everything that I've got to do today. I'm going to make a list of everything that I know I've got to do tomorrow, Saturday, and what I'm going to do Sunday. And I marked off first, I prioritized, then I actually took the time to look and go, all right, I know that I have to pick up my kids by 3:30. All right, so my cutoff time is 3:30. Now I've got to reverse engineer my day. I've got to make sure that I get work done. I've got to make sure that I get my clients responded to and update their macros, their training programs, all this other stuff that comes in with being a coach. And I've got to make sure that someone's got the right strategy. I've still got to make sure that I'm putting in time for me and my goals. So I know I've got to get about an hour and 15 minutes worth of training in. I know I've got to take probably about 30 minutes to prep out a protein source for lunch for today and tomorrow and Sunday, and doing all this stuff. Like, yeah, it took me an extra 10 minutes to figure out that schedule, but then it was just a matter of, all right, I'm in control now, and I can either stick with this schedule that I set myself, I was in charge of setting, that I told myself, this is what I'm going to stick to. Am I going to break a promise to myself? Well, it's all in my hands from that point forward to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm doing it. And that's, again, just realize you are ultimately in the driver's seat. You are in control. You want to make these changes. You want to be that different version of yourself. You're the one with the controller. So move your guy in the direction that you got to go. Go slay the dragon.
I think one of those big takeaways that whoever is listening to this can take away is reverse engineering and the concept of reverse engineering, because so many people probably do this for like small aspects of their life anyways. Like, if I have to be somewhere at X amount of time, what time do I need to leave my house at? Oh, okay. And if it's like work, well, what time do I need to make sure I get up in order to like get dressed to go and then leave at this time, right? And like, what are the variables in between? But if you reverse engineer, like in one of those, I'm going to say it's an excuse to be too busy. And I get it. We all are going to be busy, and there are going to be times when, yes, you are too busy and shit just has to be reprioritized, and you adjust, pivot. But reverse engineer that time, right? I have Google Calendar, and that's one thing that I use to organize and schedule myself, because I'll add driving time, I'll add when I'm eating, I'll add like all of those things in my Google Calendar so that I can reverse engineer. And you can even reverse engineer like, oh, this weekend I have 2 chock block full days of XYZ. I can't train this weekend. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, I've made a commitment to myself to train, but I can't on these days. So reverse engineer that. Okay, that means I need to rejig my schedule a little bit. And I actually just talked to a client about this today, actually, in a check-in. And she's like, well, I'm traveling this weekend, and usually it's really hard for me to train. So, I'm going to try, but it might get messed up. And my response to that was like, no, don't try. You're going to make it happen because you're going to plan for it. So if you are traveling and you know that that's something that you kind of already is a bit of a like challenge for you. All right. So you're going to know your schedule for her traveling, and she knows. So what do you need to make sure that you get done prior to traveling? And then during your travel, like, you just have to get up a half an hour early to go and get a walk in the morning or something like that. So you reverse engineer your goals and your promises that you can keep to yourself, and you actually find time, or you just have to adjust and pivot those things. And that's a like concrete takeaway that I think is a skill that majority of people already have, but they just have never really thought of kind of putting it that way.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I kind of want to just expand on real quick. Okay, well, I think I can work out this day. Like, okay, well, if we have the plan in place of I'm going to wake up 30 minutes early to go for a walk or do some cardio or whatever it is. Whenever something comes up, you have to also be able to differentiate and distinguish between what's an excuse and what's a reason, right?
Absolutely.
Like, hey, if I'm planning on whenever the plane lands, like let's say I'm flying somewhere, the plane lands, and I know, all right, it's landing at 11 a.m., check-in's not till 2. Hey, I've got I've got my tennis shoes on. I'm already wearing my gym clothes, so that way now I'm comfortable on the plane, number one. But number two, whenever I get to where I'm going, the first place that I'm going is to the gym, whether that's at the hotel or the local gym, and I'm doing a guest membership. Okay, I'm planning for this. If I get off the plane and I just go, you know what, I'm a little bit hungry right now. I'm not going to train because I'm hungry. Well, stop, because you have the opportunity to go, all right, I know that I'm going to train. I should probably also be thinking about my nutrition. So that's failure to plan. A reason, and for me, failure to plan that's an excuse. That is going, like, or I guess you could argue depending on the viewpoint, like reverse, but a reason that I can't train in that scenario is the plane was delayed by 4 hours, and next thing I know, instead of getting in at 11, I'm getting in at 3, and I've got a commitment at 4 o'clock. All right, well, by the time I get off the plane and by the time I get my bag and get to the hotel and get checked in, I've got to be at the other commitment at 4 o'clock. So there's a difference. What's a valid reason, and what's just a lame ass excuse for why you're not doing what you promised yourself. And I know that can definitely be one of these things that we talked about that is going to ruffle some feathers. But look, as coaches, we want to see every person succeed and achieve their goals, no matter how big or how small it is. But we also have to sometimes just tell people what they need to hear. So if you're finding that you're constantly not able to make this progress towards your goals because of poor time management or because of a lack of scheduling, well, then you've already addressed where you need to start with making some big changes.
Right. Okay. So like paying your mortgage or taxes, like you talked about, right? Not fun at all. I can find so many other reasons, like other places I'd rather spend that money, but I want to live in my house without bill collectors coming at me. And so I pay my bills, right? I want to look and move and feel a certain way. And so I do the things I have to do to have that be my life. Like I hate stretching and I find brushing my teeth really tedious. I know you said Bob loves it. I don't want to be the stinky person who looks gross. So I brush my teeth, and I feel like it comes down to the same thing with, I think we were talking about this before with people will say, I've said this to my husband where I was like, I just want to be that person who can eat whatever she wants and not have to work out routinely and look the way I want to, because we all know them, right? Like they exist where they're just naturally built that way and they can get away with it. I would love to be that person. And he was like, but you don't actually want to be that person. And because we've tapped into the fact that I like knowing that I've put some of that effort towards it, because that makes whatever it is feel that much better. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if people are like, whoever's listening to this podcast, you've already made some decision that you want to be 1% better with something because you found the Pro Physique Code and decided to listen to it, whether you're a client or, you're just into like health and fitness stuff or strength or whatever it is, like you're here for like one of those reasons. And so you're already one of those people who wants to improve a little bit with stuff. And it can come down to like, it's not as simple as just, I'm going to go listen to the podcast and it's going to teach me everything I need to know. And it's going to be super easy. Like you have to execute, and there's going to be decisions you have to make that just suck, like paying your taxes, but you got's to. And then you get to celebrate the fact that like you're not in jail for not paying your taxes. Or you can like your back doesn't hurt when you get out of bed in the morning because you took some time to stretch the night before, or you can poop because you drank your water, like simple things like that. And then they can turn into something bigger.
Yeah. I actually legit had that conversation with a client like 2 days ago because she, and guys, like we are the lifestyle, like I'm quoting air quotes, like podcast group. But just because you aren't stepping on stage doesn't mean that you shouldn't prioritize your health goals. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't take them seriously. And like this client of mine, she takes her health and fitness goals seriously. She is not a mom, but she's a busy human. And but like she has some serious like health and fitness goals. And one of them right now is performance. And she had a few days in Vegas that she made some plans for. Those plans did not follow through. And now she is about to go traveling again with some friends for the next 5 days. And her check-in basically was like, hey, I was super consistent until I wasn't. Okay, great. What happened, etc. We move forward. Cool. But she's like, I'm not really sure how to handle, like, manage my next trip. And I said, girl, the fact that like the current macros that you're at are high enough to manage meals out. What I want you to do, we're not going to have any untracked meals, and you're going to go and you can have meals out, but I want you to actually hit your macros, because that's absolutely reasonable. Within her caloric load right now is pretty high. She said she's going to be able to go work out and all those things. She's still going to be walking around. But she came back and was like, oh, I feel really crappy. My body weight is up. I feel really shitty about my choices, blah, blah, blah. I feel really anxious about this next trip. And I said, okay, well, you know what? You just got to lock it down a little bit. And like, if you choose to not lock it down, that's absolutely fine too, right? Like, that's cool. You choose, right? Like, this is your choose your own adventure that we were talking about earlier. That's also cool. Like, I'm not going to be angry at you if you check in and your trip ends up not being on top of things, but you came to me and we made some goals happen. And now we're shifting the goals to performance. You went away to Vegas. Plans didn't go as planned. You're coming back. You're feeling crappy. And now we have another trip. And I'm saying, yo, still eat out, track,
Don't
estimate.
feel crappy.
Yeah. Track, estimate, hold yourself accountable, talk to your friends about your goals, and show up as your higher self. Like, set that example for yourself. Oh, look at it. We're making a circle all the way back. But I'm like, dude, you got to hold yourself accountable to those things. And whether or not you choose to do so, that's your own, choose your own adventure. And when you check in, I want you to feel awesome. I want you to feel like you can do these things. So like, make it a priority. And does that mean that you're going to have to make some choices that are kind of uncomfortable, and maybe have some uncomfortable conversations, and really want to have, XYZ food choices, but hold yourself back a little bit and practice not restriction, but restraint. We all do these things, right? Like, Christina, you brush your teeth because you don't want to be a gross human, but you don't really like to. So that's restraint. Like, Phil, you got up at 4:20 or 4 a.m., whatever, the other day, and I bet you didn't really want to, but you did it. We all do these things on a daily basis. But for some reason, when it comes to holding ourselves accountable to these health and fitness goals, people are like, oh, well, just enjoy yourself. It's like, no. This is how you're choosing to enjoy yourself at this time. That doesn't mean that it's going to be like this forever. But like you said, Christina, at the beginning, embracing that suck and choosing these choices, it's not going to be fun. And it's not all like, oh, you can be that person and do all of these things. Like, you're probably not going to be able to be that person. And at the end of the day, are you actually going to want to be that person?
Right. Like, I would love, who wouldn't love to have Michael Phelps's metabolism, hey, you're eating like 2 pizzas a day and you're eating like bags of candy. Like, does that sound?
Yeah, but Phil, he was training like 8 hours a day. Do you think that he wanted to train 8 hours a day?
Exactly. So recognizing that, look, everyone is at a different point. Everyone has different genetics. I have literally been on calls with people where, there's one guy in particular that really, really stands out, because this tugged on my heartstrings to see where, like, this particular guy's situation, he was raised by a single mom that was working 2 jobs. He, from the time he was like 4 or 5 years old, was just a matter of his older sibling putting a TV dinner in the microwave. Like, all he has grown up knowing is peel off the plastic, stick it in the microwave, and that's how you eat.
Yeah.
So, seeing that, look, we've got to just start with making some improvements from there. And I remember one of the questions was, well, if I'm actually cooking all of my own food, doesn't that mean that I've now got to, start washing dishes? Okay, well, yes, it does. And can it suck that that takes 5-10 minutes to do? Like, no one likes doing the dishes. Like, if I could just permanently delete any task in my day-to-day life, dishes. I hate dishes. Laundry's a close second one.
Ooh, laundry's number one for me.
I like the feel of a warm towel like
Oh,
that.
I like the feeling of a warm towel. I just want to clean it and fold it and put it away.
So you can get rid of the
And
laundry.
fold it in thirds, not in like quarters.
Oh, we've got
You know
one of
what I
those
mean?
t-shirt like clackers, like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory.
Yes.
Love it. But okay, for this particular guy, look, your journey is starting off as we're having to learn some basic habits. Do we have more of a distance to cover to get to your end goals for reverse engineering it? Yes, compared to someone else, but there's also someone that's even further away on their journey than where you're starting off at. So look, just try being 1% better. Try doing one new thing. Maybe it's a matter of, instead of doing a pre-made dinner in the microwave for every single meal, well, maybe we are doing something a little bit more along those lines with like an Icon Meals or Mega Fit Meals. By the way, if either of y'all want to sponsor, feel free. But maybe we're just cooking one meal. Maybe we're just taking the time to, go on YouTube instead of watching Netflix and see, all right, how to cook chicken breast, or how to make overnight oats. Like, look up that stuff and start applying it. If you've got the time to be watching TV, or you've got the time to be scrolling through social media, you have the time. You just need to start saying, my goals matter. I can do this. I do want to be better. I want all of this. And just, if you don't already have your why, then find it and focus on it. For me, a lot of and your why is going to change. My why right now for everything that I'm currently doing is because I want my kids to follow in my suit. I want them to see, hey, it's just normal that we eat lean protein at every meal. It's normal that we have 5-6 servings of veggies a day. Look, is the broccoli as appealing to me as a nice juicy cut of steak? Hell no. But if I have a ribeye every single day, I'm going to get tired of that ribeye, and I'm probably also going to see my cholesterol go through the roof. So look, I'm having broccoli, I'm having some asparagus, I'm having some green beans, peas, whatever. And seeing that
Green beans in the air fryer.
Fuego, straight fuego.
Just
Yeah. But just like a little drizzle of Parmesan cheese and like some of the ranch packet, like the ranch seasoning packet on there. Mwah, chef's kiss. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. I know how to throw down on an air fryer. Just start though. Try to find those little ways to improve some of this stuff. Take a package of ground beef and just cook it without any seasonings. It tastes like garbage. It's gonna smell like a foot and taste like one. But you add in the salt, pepper, the cayenne. You start putting in a little bit of oregano. You season it the way that you want. Just do that exact same thing. You know that the habit is you've got to start cooking for yourself. So start somewhere and build on it. That's always what I want people to just keep in mind, is these habits that they see us displaying on Instagram, they were built over years or decades, not a matter of just one day Christina flipped the switch and went, well, that's it. Poof. I've got 4 kids. I'm married. I've got clients that I work with that I help, and I do all these awesome things, taking my kids to cheer, and I'm baking, and I'm working out, and I'm kicking ass, taking names at life. It's not like she just, boom, did that. These were all habits that were built. And it's the same thing with all of us that you see. So always just keep that in mind. Give yourself that grace of your journey is going to start somewhere different from everyone else's.
Yeah. Just start with that action, right? Like I followed like these different accounts that help with like cleaning routines and stuff because I have to be like routines. I have to have plans and things like that to get stuff done. And there was one that like it was so stupid how monumental it was for me, but somebody was talking about like how they have a picked up house all the time with kids in the house and being busy, was that they pick stuff up when they see it. And it was like, I don't know why that was so big, but it was like if there's something on the stairs, like that somebody threw there or something like that, and then you like your go-to is to walk past it and look at it and be like, God damn it, it's always so messy in here. Just pick it up. And then it's not. And like it snowballs into a cleaner house. And I started just treating my life like that, where like if there was something in my brain that was being like scattered and that needed to be addressed one way or another, it like do it right then when it pops up and take care of it. So if it's making a grocery list or ordering groceries or pulling out the meat to thaw, because how many of us mess that up routine?
Oh my God.
Like,
Oh my God.
pull it out right now. Pause the podcast, go pull out the chicken and thaw it. Like
My steak is pulled out currently.
I like it.
But it's not seasoned.
You said the magic word. What cut are we dealing with tonight? What you cooking?
Pull out.
No, are you doing like ribeye, sirloin? What? Sorry,
It's a skirt steak.
Pull out was the
I know, I'm just laughing because I said pull out, and in my brain I was like, hey, anyways, it's skirt steak.
Yum. Have you had tri-tip yet? In like how they do it up down in I mean in California that was like the big thing.
Maybe
like
not.
Santa Maria style tri-tip.
Tri-tip is awesome. Let me tell you another one though, that it's so I have a meat purveyor down here that literally the guy just gets me whatever the hell I ask for. And one of the cuts of steak he introduced me to that is super lean, super high in protein, and it's a lesser known cut, is called a hanger steak. And it's so lesser known that it's actually referred to as the butcher's cut of steak. Really lean, really tender. In a 4-ounce serving, it's something like 7 grams of fat and I think like 32 grams of protein.
Not bad.
Yeah. So if you've got like an actual butcher, 10 out of 10 would recommend hanger steak.
I dig it. Well, I feel like this is something we could probably all go on for forever, but
absolutely,
maybe people are over us by now, so we got to give them a break.
But nothing like a good steak.
We can just go through tangents like for hours and hours. Do you guys have anything you want to add with just trying to be a better example?
So with me, I just want to touch on or say something that maybe some of the dads can pick up and resonate on, meditate on. I'm gonna steal a Dave Ramseyism. More is caught than taught. So, as a dad, I'm always keeping that in mind. Like my kids are going to do what I'm doing. My kids are going to see the way that I am. They're going to see the way I act versus react. And that's what I always want people that, if you're around kids, even if you don't have your own kids, like I remember being just, again, the single guy with 2 young nephews. I wanted them to see Uncle Phil, as we're walking through the park, there's the chin up bar, like a little exercise obstacle course. And, Uncle Phil is doing, sets of 10 with both nephews holding on. Like it was such a cool thing. And they see that. And even now, like both my nephews are still very physically active. And I do that with my kids as well, because I want them to see this side of life that, look, is it more effort to do the chin-ups while I'm going through the park? Yes, but it's rewarding because now I get to go, hell yeah, my kids know dad's strong.
Yeah. Yep. It feels good, right? What about you, Jess? You got any final pieces?
I mean, nothing that we haven't touched on already. Just I think knowing that a lot of your journey is going to be exciting and knowing that a lot of your journey is going to be tedious and repetitive and the same, and you're going to fuck up, and but you're never going to fail unless you refuse to take that like quote unquote failure as a opportunity. And know that some of it's just the same thing repeating and building upon it, and that just because it's not exciting doesn't mean that it's not working. And your goals will require some change and effort and sucking, and take that on as something that's exciting, or not even exciting, but just like accept it as part of the process, because that's part of what you want. So just own it, own whatever those choices are. I mean, I don't know. That's it.
I dig it. I dig it. I think today was a good one. So you guys can find us on Instagram at the Pro Physique Code. It's got its own little page. And then there's a whole bunch of good accounts with the Pro Physique Studio. Phil's the main man over at the Pro Physique Transformation Challenge that's going on right now. And it is so stinking exciting. I love seeing everything that's going on there. And we're all easy to find. I think it's some part of our name, right? Phil. Oh gosh, Phil, I forgot. Is yours Phil Pirtle? I can't remember your Instagram.
Mine is Pirtle Coaching. It's my last name and what I do.
Yep. Okay. I got you. It's so bad because now I just like see all of them and just think of you guys immediately. And then you know how you see some people and all you can think of is their Instagram handle and not their name?
Yes.
It took me like
Yes.
3 months worth of seeing Kaylee in the Pro Physique Studio like regularly to not be like, hey, cupcake muscle.
Cupcake muscle. Yeah, no, I think Just Be Fit. So
that's okay. Like, who I think I was like with Rachel and Danny, and they were like, oh, have you ever had a nickname? I'm like, not really. And they're like, we just call you like Jess B or like JB. And I'm like, yeah, actually a lot of people call me JB really randomly. Anyways, yeah, no, Just Be Fit. Yeah.
I dig it. All right, guys, we're going to head out of here. If you've got any questions for us, feel free to reach out. Oh, Phil has a dad joke.
Phil wants his dad joke.
Hang on. No, this week's not a dad joke. This is a random fact.
Okay. Acceptable.
Right, yeah. I've done a dad joke. So I want to end with a fact. So Ellie's been really big into the aquarium here. So learned a couple of facts about octopus. So did you know that they can actually taste with the suckers on their arms? They're not called tentacles. They are actually called arms. And octopus can travel up to 25 miles per hour.
Yeah, they're fast and creepy.
That's concerning, right? And then have you seen where they fit themselves into like a tiny little jar? And it's like this big thing. And then they're like, phoom.
I don't know the science behind it. I'm not a zoologist, but there's got to be proof somewhere that octopus came from like a different world. There's no way that thing is just naturally here.
No, like sea creatures in general. And it's funny because like I love water. I love the ocean. I am not scared to like swim in the, but like animals in the sea are wild and terrifying.
Okay. No, they're not okay. Like they can regenerate. Nobody else can regenerate. Oh, I guess lizards can.
Lizards can.
Equally as weird though. I don't like that either. No, I don't like any of them.
Okay. Off on a tangent.
Stay in your cages. No, in your world. And I just won't go into your world. That's my response to it, is that I'm like, that's your space, man. And I'm just not going to come bug you. And that's just how I handle that.
There was a study done. They basically analyzed I think it was like a certain, I can't remember if it was a gene or what it is that gives lizards the ability to like regenerate a limb. But they basically put that, I was reading this experiment a while back, so I'm super foggy on it, but they did they put whatever it was into a frog and they tried the exact same thing. They cut off the frog's leg and it grew back.
So they're working on that, right? Probably. And it's going to be some creepy shit.
Yeah, exactly. And this is how I Am Legend probably starts. So
don't.
All right, that's probably enough of us taking up y'all's.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.